Okay, good morning. Yeah, just to give you a little background on me, I was a sound mixer for Pursuit of Freedom, Disciples in the Moonlight, and the recently completed Beyond Belief, as well as a short that was shortlisted for the Oscars this year, The Ice Cream Man. So, um, basically, today I want to talk to you a little bit about the art and craft of cinema audio. In other words, the toys and how you use them. So, without further ado,
You're fake children. You broke. You know what Sergei said.
Let them go! Hey, what the heck?
Don't cut it out.
You're not catching anything! Look at it! I'll get the eagle, and we'll get out to lunch. Let's just survive the day first.
Oh, me? Yeah, go for it. Yeah, you're on.
Hi, I'm Pete. Gigi and I have been friends since forever.
Let's get his feet wet on this job.
I'm just excited to be here.
It's all right. Pedros! I'm gonna wait for you in the car, all right? See you later. Hey, doggy. Another one trespassing. It's my backhanded. Okay, okay.
Come on, let's go.
Seriously?
okay, so yes, a little sampling of what I do and the magic that I create. Bottom line is, we're talking about production sound. It's an art like no other. And I feel like my volume is still pretty loud, just like yesterday. But hey, I'll try to keep it a little toned down. Bottom line, with production audio, if no one notices what you did, guess what? You're probably doing your job correctly. So, goals of production sound. Let's see here. Bear with me. There it goes. So, your goals for production sound are to capture clean, clear, consistent, and intelligible audio, specifically dialogue, to capture all of your relevant on-set sound. So, to to provide a reliable mix for use both on set and in post, and of course, keep your time code consistent between all the various devices. So, trucking on. What do I mean by clean, clear, consistent, intelligible audio? Come on, behave yourself. There we go. Okay, first off, you're going to have to select the correct microphones. What's going to fit the scenario that you're working with? Make sure that there are no overlapping lines, unless, of course, the director directs you otherwise. Try to keep everything separate. Why? Because post can remix that. Noise control. In other words, any offending sounds, you want to try to get rid of those. Any reverb in the room, you want to try to deaden that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how to accomplish each of these things as we go here. Next is consistent sound. Always keeping everything nice, smooth, even. You don't want your levels jumping all over the place. Separation of your background noise. In other words, you want your dialogue up front. Any kind of background, you want to try to minimize that, very simply. So, capturing all relevant on-set sound. Be our first item of business here. Hey, look, I feel like a slide is out of order, so I'm going to actually back up just a smidge. My apologies. Capture clean, clear, intelligible dialogue. Sorry, for some reason it's not on the screen. My slides are probably out of order. Let's see. Oh yeah, no, we got through it. Pardon me, I'm having a moment apparently. Capture all relevant on-set sound. This is going to be, first off, your ambient tracks. What does that mean? The sound of the space. So, additionally, your room tone. Again, that's immediately what you have in this space. You're going to want to capture any elements you want to add into that ambience as well. Natural Foley. These are incidental sounds. Your lead actor walks up and he kicks the chair. You want that sound of the chair being kicked. And so on and so forth. And of course, last up, wild lines. If you don't know what a wild line is, it's very simply, those are lines that you're going to capture without the camera rolling. Why would you do that? Well, a couple different reasons. One, if the line doesn't have any picture associated with it, that's one thing. But beyond that, say you capture the line, something buzzed your audio, you need another option, one way or another. So, while the actor is still in it, still on set, you're still in the same space, so it has the same tone, let's run through those lines, get those while you're on set. The actor's performance is going to stay at least somewhat true to what they were already doing on camera, right? Make sense? Nod your heads if you understand. Excuse me while I consult my cheat sheet here. There we go. So next up, reliable mix. I said basically for use on set and in post. So on set, a clean mix is going to basically give you an idea of what you can do in post. And of course, depending on your post workflow, they might use the isolated tracks, but they've at least got something to reference, even if they're not using that straight up mix you did on set. Additionally though, on set, you will have, there it is, a feed. It basically will be going to your key personnel. So they'll be listening on headphones and be able to hear live what's happening. Gives everyone an idea of what's going on, basically. And then, of course, for post, once again, it may be included in the final mix, it might not. So it always gives them a good reference. Next up, correct time code. Very simply, this is keeping all your devices aligned. So you're going to be connecting up, of course, to your recorder. Usually it'll be the source of your time code. Typically, there are exceptions. You'll sync up to the cameras, so you'll be adding a box to the camera to keep their time code consistent. And obviously the slate itself gets the time code on it as well. And most importantly, when doing field audio, do it as if there's no post. Now, what do I mean by that? It's good to know what post can do, what it can accomplish, what the filters do for you. However, you don't want to use that as your crutch. Keep that knowledge in the back of your head, but go ahead and try to capture the most clean, pure audio you can. Why? Because that's going to give your post department the cleanest runway to start this whole thing. If they don't have to do a lot of cleanup, guess what? They get to spend more time being creative and having fun rather than, well, let's fix this. think I mentioned in my session yesterday, for those of you that were here and those that aren't, yeah, you really can only make bad audio less bad. So let's aim for great audio, not even just good. So everybody will be happier. Here we go. Okay, so the toys of the set. Obviously, first up, the mixer. You've got your wireless lav mics. You've got, of course, boom-mounted microphones. You've got sound blankets. You've got, of course, your slate that everybody knows and loves, and I've got one behind myself. There we go. Sync boxes. We'll talk about all these each individually, but kind of just to give you a rough overview. IFB systems, in other words, those cool headphones that the director wears. And every once in a while, you need to haul out a playback speaker. Hello, come on, behave yourself. Don't repeat yourself. What are you doing? Don't you love when the presentation software decides to repeat itself? That's cool. I did not hit a back arrow, I promise. There we go. The mixer, that's what I'm after. The mixer. Okay, this is your base of operations. Every time, I actually physically have one of those units right here. This is where you can control your levels from. This is going to be bottom line. That will be your recorder as well, generally speaking with most modern units. Was a time you tend to split it up. A lot of the units now are actually recording on board. Makes things a whole lot more streamlined. I mentioned earlier, it's usually the master clock. Exception to that would be if camera wanted to have the base, then you'd light up your time code from them and share that with yourself. Doesn't happen often, or if you wanted to set time code to something specific on your time code box as it's and it serves as the master clock. So again, that's getting a little too deep into the weeds. I don't want to take too much time with that, but there are exceptions to that rule. Metadata management. So bottom line, this is logging your scene, your shot, your take. Do you have any notes for that? Did you get buzzed by a plane? That's a good thing to throw in there. So always keep your log of all the clips that you're doing. Again, it's all about making post-life as easy as possible. You want them to spend their time being creative, not correcting for or interpreting that stuff you acquired in the field. ISO tracks. These are just literally standalone tracks for each microphone you have out there. So on top of your mix track, you're always recording those isolated tracks of each source. And of course, lastly, your mix track. Trucking on, lav microphones. Big things to remember with lav microphones, always be polite when you're wiring your talent. In other words, don't just dive in there without saying something. Introduce yourself. Try to tell them what you're doing ahead of time. Just don't take your actor by surprise. That's the main thing. Different talent levels, different experience levels. Some are more comfortable than others. So kind of gauge the situation. Bottom line is it's not the right time for joking when you're lobbing someone up. Other thing that comes with lav mics, generally speaking, will be wireless frequency management. Again, not going to dive into it too deeply, but you do need to make sure all the wireless frequencies that you're using are going to be absolutely clear. No dropout. Another thing you will want in your kit, 100% absolutely, is multiple attachment methods. I have toys. Forgot to pull this out, hang tight. Aha, there we go. So, obviously you've got your standard clips that you can do to the belt. You have waist straps that you can put all the way around. You even have small little pouches you can put your transmitter pack in and hide that underneath the wardrobe, so again, everything's invisible. Worst thing you can do when working with wireless is to let camera catch you at your craft. So just try to keep everything very much clean. And then, last but not least, expendables for mounting. What do I mean by that? Well, generally speaking, those wonderful little tie clips that all the news people use, yeah, throw those out. Those are junk. You won't use those in cinema at all. So, from there, we have many, many options. I keep in my kit a whole lot of different options. Double stick adhesives, most common of these, Top Stick, Super Stick, even Ursa tape as well. All basically the same product, usually hypoallergenic double stick tape basically. Top Stick being the classic, it's actually toupee tape, quite literally. From there, moleskin, again, just another option to stick. Everything tends to be medical grade. It does look like a first aid kit the further you go into your expendables kit. Foot foam, again, more medical materials. That'll basically be in the kit for a variety of reasons. I've used it as partial defense against hairy chests before. Also, you can stick that to the bottom of people's shoes, dampen down any noises made by that. So, additionally, medical tapes in all sorts of varieties. I usually keep some of the more plasticky surgical tape as well as some of the more fabric style. Some play nicer with different people's skin types, so it's good to have options. If an actor starts reacting, have plan B ready. Safety pins, again, ways to mount things. That's usually more for, obviously, transmitter packs, things like that. You can pin those into the wardrobe, dress that up a little bit nicer. You can also mount the mic head with that by taping it on. So, again, all that options. Love furries. And yes, I'm actually going to show you some of this here in just a moment. But bottom line, you're familiar with the idea of a windscreen or a dead cat? Miniature versions to stick on lavs. Snot tape. Joe's Sticky Stuff is probably the most common brand you'll see out and about, but bottom line, it's kind of a double-sided tape that's got a little bit of squish to it. Really good for doing like plant bike rigs, things like that. Gaffer's tape, we all know it, we all love it, we all use it for lots of things. So, just good to have on hand. Velcro, this will basically be for, usually for mounting on camera. So, your time code box, or if you happen to be sending a signal to camera, that's where that'll come into play for you. Less so for anything with talent. And mic covers, specifically waterproof mic covers of sort. Keep those in the kit just in case you've got a situation where you got either a light drizzle or a really sweaty actor you need to protect the mic from. So, and I think this one speaks for itself. Batteries, lots of them and lots of different types. Depends on the device, which type, but just have them on hand, whatever your devices happen to take. So this is kind of how I organize things a little bit, but the important thing is you keep it organized. All my mic straps, extra markers for the slate, some Velcro straps coming down, lots of tape, some extra adhesive, some of my first circles and batteries. Moving on, that's actually my Go kit there that I take off the Wire Talent, and some more straps, yet again, I like to use straps. And after I finish unlocking my case, because I forgot to do it when I shot this, there's my label maker, which I use for the slate, as well as some scissors for whatever I need to cut up. There's my foot foam. My Joe's Sticky is the silver tin down there, and then basically some extra cart parts, as well as some extra cable adapters, things like that. It's my emergency supply, so just to kind of give you an idea. Big thing with most sound stuff is keep it organized. You want to be able to get access to everything as quick as possible. Figure out what works for your own brain. This is how I do it. Let's see. So, well, that was not supposed to come up immediately, but we'll go with it. So we're going to talk about boom mics. And as it says, it's not actually a mic type, it's a mic mounting method, actually. Come on, behave yourself. There we go. Boom microphones, your operator is going to have to watch for lots of different things. So shadows, reflections, and just generally having situational awareness. Now here's what I mean by situational awareness. First off, when you're micing someone, you're looking for your position of the actor, right? That's number one, but that's only one thing you have to watch for. You're gonna have to watch for if your camera's moving. You're gonna need to pay attention to the movements of the camera. Are crew members adjusting things, even to the side? Well, you're swinging a big pole around. You don't want to clock anyone in the head, right? Right. So basically, situational awareness. Just be aware where you're swinging the pole and keep control of the pole at all times. Now, I'm going to step onto my soapbox. Don't hand the pole to a PA. This is a trained position. Generally speaking, you want someone that actually knows how to do all these things. You can tell you're already watching for quite a few different things all at once, right? And it takes a lot of endurance to do it. I've seen a number of times where PAs handed the pole, and by the end of their time with it, within a day, I'd say, they've got an ice pack. Their arm's gone to sleep. Bottom line, they're probably not working the next day. Nobody wants that, right? We want to keep our crew safe. So don't put a PA in the position. They're probably going to overexert themselves and they don't know how to hold that pole properly. So, I'll give you one more thing and then I'm going to show you something. But first off, let's see, where am I at? Okay, yeah. Okay, I'll go ahead and cut to this. Basically, a few situations where mic selection played a real big part in the scenes. I'm going to play this, and then we'll talk about it.
God is with us. So never tell me what we cannot do. Let's go. Hurry! Excuse me.
Mr. Edwards, it says here that you were the pastor of a church at Springfield, Ohio. Is that correct? And why did you leave that position?
It's time for a change.
Okay, so what you were looking at there, obviously the first one, Pursuit of Freedom. My boom op had to go backwards through that crowd, not plowing anyone over as much as humanly possible, but bottom line, we went through this a couple times before we rolled camera just to make sure extras knew where they needed to be. At that point, boom op had to back up, maintain that access, keep everything sounding tight, even amidst the crowd. Second clip doesn't look that challenging, right? Well, if you saw the picture that I flashed up there, light rig was all around the top. The problem with that was it was casting shadows like crazy, so we couldn't go under the light. So my boom op wound up having to do this from the top of a ladder. So sometimes it's all about creativity of positioning. Again, not an untrained position in any way, shape, or form. Something to be aware of. Now, I wanted to take 30 seconds and do this. Can I borrow someone? Don't care who. You got it. First hand. Okay. Just kind of give you guys, step this way, good sir. I'm just going to use you as my subject. Just to kind of give you a visual, this is kind of what you're doing to aim your mic. And again, one of the reasons why this is not an untrained position. Try not to flash your eyes here. But bottom line, you're always aiming for that little noise maker. And if you're going to miss it all, you're going to want to get a little bit of chest because you got some resonance off that. So, just to give you the visual of it, this is kind of what a mic pattern will do. You aim roughly for the mouth, just a little bit down. So now you're going to have a good mic tone. Does that make sense? Just to give you kind of a rough idea. And then if he starts walking backwards, say, I'm going to keep tracking with him and try to keep everything as steady as possible. And you'll turn that way. Perfect. And he's off. Thank you very much. Give you an idea why you don't necessarily want to just hand it to anyone. Once again, thank you very much. And now, okay, so we talked about the boom, but as I said, the boom is, once again, not what? It's not a type of microphone. You mount whatever you want on the mic, on the boom. So, things you might see on the boom. A small supercardioid mic, something like this one right here, would be the first go-to. I'm going to get into a little bit more specifically in just a moment what each of these is for. Secondly, this is what most of you are probably used to seeing, the short shotgun. And when you really need a really nice, narrow, isolated tone, this is a long shotgun. It's big, it's bulky, and it's not nearly as heavy as you might think it is. I've fallen behind on my tabs, but there we go. On these, this will kind of illustrate a little bit of the reasons you want. Actually, I'm just going to go and play this, and then I'll explain what you saw.
I love you, Dad.
I love you too. What kind of Christian abducts his own kid? I didn't. My wife was on that train around by his disciples.
Don't do this.
So you go on his side?
No. Can we just take him in?
Listen, stop. We have to stop them from spreading these Bibles. You can't contaminate the Word of God. If you disciples follow this Word of God, it makes you do these types of... How can you defend that? How can you talk about law? Is that who you are? Are you a disciple of Jesus Christ? For everything, I am not. I am not.
Okay. So let me kind of lay out what was happening here. This was a situation where we had to deviate. We initially were probably going to go short shotgun. Why short shotgun? Well, that particular device is actually a little bit more forgiving as far as where you're pointing. So as we got there, turns out they wanted to put haze throughout the entire scene. So basically a little bit of a fog effect, to put it in layman's terms. That said, there was a big tube running around that entire playground area that we were shooting in, right? Hazer was inside that tube distributing fog throughout the whole set. Additionally, they had to create a fake moon, so there's a generator running the fake moon, plus other lights on set. So couple generators, haze machine, all this adding to the challenge, plus some traffic in the distance, the things I really needed isolated out. So this is where you get motivated to move to the big mamma jamma. So long shotgun, basically this is going to give you a lot more narrow cone. Here's the downside to the long shotgun. While it's going to give you a nice narrow cone, say instead of something like this, you're getting something more like this, right? Make sense? What does that mean the boom op's going to have to do? Give me a little louder. Yeah, it's basically, you got to keep a razor sharp focus the whole time. You cannot drift. Again, going back to, this is why you don't want a PA in this position. You want someone that knows what that mic's going to do and where it needs to be at the right time and can get it there. And even on this one, we had just enough movement going on throughout that whole scene we definitely needed a rehearsal to get that 100% locked in. It was not a first take sort of thing, admittedly. But I think it sounded great, hopefully. So, yeah, so that gives you that. I didn't talk much about that shorter mic that I had out. The short supercardioid. What I use that for primarily is going to be indoor scenes. There are exceptions to that rule, but it's got a little bit wider pattern compared to the short shotgun. A little bit warmer tone in a lot of ways. So, sounds really great. I love it for interior spaces. It tends to, in my experience, it generally accentuates reverberation in the room just a little bit less. It's not that it eliminates it, it just accentuates it less. To kind of explain as best I can there. Next up, wind protection. I did not bring any of this with me, so I'll just kind of go through it here. So lots of different types of wind protection you can use on the mics. Start with the basics. Foam. This is your most simple one. It really is only good for just light microphone movement. Nothing more than that. It really doesn't protect you from wind at all, per se. Just, again, light movements. Usually only use that in interior. For instance, a surgical center. Next up, little slip-on style wind protections. These are usually lighter weight. May or may not be quite as good of a wind cut as bigger options. However, they're quick, they're light, and they work in a pinch in a lot of situations. You can do some outdoor work with those. So there's this style that's more a fabric ball. And then, once again, coming over to my toys over here, you got this style, which just lets you guys see it just in person if you haven't seen it before. This is kind of your classic basic slip-on wind furry. So that one's actually a Rycote Softy, but there are several manufacturers that do it. And then, of course, full Zeppelin. Again, didn't bring it with me, but this would be your full Zeppelin right here. Real good if you've got any kind of winds going on. Different styles of Zeppelin are better in different gauges of wind. Both these two are really, really good in a lot of scenarios. And last but not least, the Windjammer, AKA the Dead Cat. Because what does it look like? Well, kind of that. So, plus your boom op gets to snuggle it. So, there you go. There we go. Plant microphones. So this is not necessarily, once again, this is not really a specific mic. This is a way of mounting your mics. Plant mic is very simply going to be anything that is mounted statically. It's not being operated by a boom op. You're not putting it on a person. You're just quite literally planting it, hence the name. So, kind of give you a few examples. It's the rig I came up with. We had a bench seat in this car, so we just mounted on a sandbag. Went to center of the seat. We weren't driving real fast, so nothing was slipping around. But that way I was able to actually have a decent shotgun aiming up at my talent. Another situation, mounting to someone yelling back into a house, actually, from the front door of the house. Additionally, yet another car rig. Plants come up a lot in cars, in case you haven't figured that out yet. Just because it's really the best way to mic inside of a car. Lob, you're going to have a little bit of clothing noise, things like that. Whereas these will avoid that somewhat. You just got to watch road rumble. And one more rig. Car visor. Actually planted a lav up there. Once again, it's not a specific type of mic that you're going to plant. It's what works for the situation and what you can hide from the camera as well. Again, don't let camera catch you at your magic.
I text you like 1 billion times. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm talking
It's JJ, Mom. No, Mom.
You can't stay.
Mom, no!
Look, man, I'm sorry. What's going on?
You must not fight. I am the protector. But if you fight, you could die. What did you sit down and have on, huh? You have no papers. If they are found, they will be separated.
Come on, Gigi.
Go, 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 go! You okay? You okay?
I didn't think it was gonna be like this. What do you think it was gonna be like? Not this. Maybe it would be better to just be content with the Revised Bible. It's not as bad as you think, okay? What are you talking about? Still the Bible, Nate.
Okay, so few scenarios where this plant's actually worked out really nicely. If you might have guessed, the rig that I had rigged to the table that I mentioned was for yelling inside. That's what was used for him yelling back in the house at his mom. That was a scene from Disciples in the Moonlight. And yeah, my boom op was stationed outside the door. Didn't have a second boom op, so this was our option, but it actually worked out pretty nicely overall. So we had that one. Second shot, we went to car sequence from Pursuit of Freedom. This one, they actually were driving the car, but we used the road noise to our advantage. It was fine. Again, decent separation between your dialogue and that road noise. So again, totally clear. That was a combination of a seat rig and Laws on Talent, as I recall. Last one, Disciples in the Moonlight, once again. They used a lot of what's called poor man's process, meaning the car itself was actually stationary while they were flashing lights through the windows to create the road movement effect. This works in my favor, obviously, and I'm a fan. You get rid of the road noise issue, but the car rig itself is actually going to be very much the same. So you'll plant on seats, under visors, and once again, probably keep your talent lobbed as well simultaneously to capture all the sound of that scene. Next up, sound blankets. You thought when you were a kid that you wouldn't ever use this skill again, but no, you find yourself building blanket forts. So what do they do for you? They're going to dampen any offending noises. For instance, this situation. We were in a restaurant. I needed to dampen actually an entire working kitchen behind. We could not shut off the hood fans on those ovens. So what do? This actually was kind of a little serving area where they'd shove the food over. So clamp furniture pads all the way across that. That helped with that bit of noise. Really the only thing that we were able to turn off, I think, in this restaurant was there was a soda machine that we had a PA standing by to flick that switch for us. Additionally, coolers that could not be shut off because they had melty sort of things in them. So again, you try your best to block whatever noise is coming from that cooler. Generally don't want to get too tight up against where the air outlet is, but try to dampen it as much as you can, build a little cage around it is kind of the idea. Another purpose of them, of course, is also to reduce room reverb. So any kind of slap back you're getting in the room, you can shape that sound just a little bit. And in case you haven't noticed, I like giving examples, so here we go.
Where have you been? You haven't called me.
Sorry,
Did you want to make the delivery?
No.
What can I get for you?
Coffee, black, and this looks great. I'll have what she's having. And the check will give you a chance as well.
All right.
serious?
Don't freak out. Jake and I got out. They didn't see us. It's all gone, Rachel. They burned everything.
The cross? It means many things. Hope, forgiveness, restoration, salvation. It's a symbol of the love of Christ.
Samantha znęportat man. There was no love there. No hope.
Sadly, not all who wear the cross of Christ have the heart of Christ.
So yeah, those were in fact the scenes that I was showing you some of the behind the scenes shots of. Restaurant scene was in fact where I was dampening out those coolers. So cheated out most of the background, so the dialogue again was fairly crisp. Second one was where we were doing the fly walls to kind of get rid of a little bit of reverb. That room was not a legit hospital room. We just dressed it that way. So we had to make the room feel smaller than it was a little bit. So we needed to dry up a little bit of that ambient tone there. So now a few non-specific tools for correcting sound anomalies that you might not think of on a normal basis. First off, your car keys. They go in the fridge when you turn it off. In other words, you can't drive off set until you've turned that back on. And you don't waste the 20 pounds of meat that someone had left in there previously. I didn't do it, but I've heard stories. Next, a handy-dandy farmhand. When animals try to make an auditory cameo. Beyond belief, we had a chicken who decided it was time for everybody to wake up right during our shot. And last but not least, some of you may have seen this one yesterday if you were in, but I like to repeat myself occasionally. Sometimes the gaffer gives you a button. Because the DP really likes his haze effects. And there's dialogue at the start and the end of the scene that you have to capture. I am Groot.
Can't leave anything to chance. It's imperative we reduce our risk, so get creative. How can we get Bibles into these states without being caught? Clock is ticking.
Problem number one, carrying them. What about an encrypted file? Like on our phones or a hard drive or something?
Now their technology can read anything. I mean, remember what happened with the woman in the diner? This has to be something physical that we can hand over to these churches.
Yeah, but you can't expect to be carrying huge boxes or stuff a bunch of them on your shirts. Which leads to problem number two. What if you have to run?
What if we get caught? Then what?
Yeah, that's why our cover should work. They have no reason to search an obscure hiding place.
You seriously think they'll expect us to be hiding Bibles here? You don't think they'll search everything? These have to be hidden in plain sight.
Okay, you're talking about protecting these Bibles, but we also need to focus on protecting ourselves.
And that's problem number three. So why not protect? No guns.
Are you kidding? You're gonna send us out there, defenseless.
God protects his word. Okay, we have seen that time and time again. And this time will be no different. Okay, have faith in him. I don't know. There's just so many unknowns, it's hard to know how to prepare.
One thing we can't expect, these agents will try anything.
Okay, to explain that, basically what happened is, again, haze effects had to be running that whole scene. So noisy, really noisy. It was a big hazer. we were in a big space, so it was kind of dissipating fast on us. So again, it couldn't be cut. So after chatting with my DP and my gaffer, we came up with the button solution. All due credit to my gaffer. Lee was awesome. But the deal was, as soon as that first line hit, pop the hazer off, let him deliver. As soon as he's to his mark, pop it back on, just to keep that atmosphere going all the way through that sequence. This was basically a live action time lapse. You'll notice all the wardrobe changes, all the movement, all that was happening live time. There are no cuts. And then we get to the end of the scene, pop that hazer off one more time, final line, final motivation. So there it is. It was a bit of a dance, had to get our cues straight. Took us a few tries, but loved the result on it. Next up, not going to go too deep on this one. Slates and sync boxes. I keep mentioning them. We know our friend the slate. So basically, places time code goes. So slate, generally speaking, you'll jam that up. Time code boxes. This is the device that's actually going to go onto the camera. If you're not familiar with them, you basically plug that into your mixer, light it up with time code, that goes over to your camera. You make sure your frame rates are absolutely 100% the same across the board, and then post will love you. Again, didn't want to spend too much time there, just want to mention it. IFB system. I think I mentioned it before. This is basically what any key personnel are going to listen to the mix live on, quite simply. So, your script supervisor is going to need one. Your director is absolutely going to want to listen while he's viewing the monitor. Then, sometimes your writer will want to listen. And, of course, first ADs also will sometimes want to listen, depending on the situation for the take. To give you an idea what the devices actually look like, if you haven't seen one before, little box like that is what you're going to hand out to your personnel, and one set of headphones. Don't have to be fancy headphones, just enough to get good reference. And there's what your transmitter looks like for that same system. This is kind of the classic one called the Comtech, which is a specific brand, but again, IFB is the more generic term for the device. So, playback. So, this is something I hadn't given a whole lot of thought till I wound up booking the job on Beyond Belief. I had kept a playback speaker in my kit, just a small one for just emergency scenarios. Well, Beyond Belief is a different movie. This is, for lack of a better description, it's a rock and roll movie. So we had lots of scenes where we have, say, a guitarist playing on the street side, a band playing, just little bits of musical moments here and there. So we absolutely had to have something that would give us proper sound reinforcement all the way through. So bottom line, it's when a scene needs to be synced to music. So a small PA speaker, preferably battery powered. Why battery powered? Because you don't know where you're going to need it. You need to have the option, 100%. But you also need enough output so that you can actually hear it properly. So again, full bands. And in this case, they were using acoustic drums, which made it doubly important that that speaker be loud enough to get over the drums so they can hear what the playback's doing and keep in time with it. So in this scenario, I wound up going between either a laptop or an iPad, basically, as far as for the song playback most of the time. And also was kind of doing a little bit of a re-record of the music as we went as well. So it's something they can potentially use in post just to get that sound of the space a little bit. Again, keeping everything as honest as possible, just like you would the dialogue, just to give them a little bit of that feel. So also another note on playback, sometimes the scene gets big enough that this is where having a larger audio department can kind of help you out a little bit. Don't really have any on-screen notes for this, but again, with Beyond Belief, we had a scenario where we were actually using a church's sound system in their main auditorium as our playback. It's fine, except we were going between dialogue and playback. So what that means is I needed to be on the levels, making sure the recording's staying good. My boom op needed to be into position to fly in as the dialogue portion hit. And we still needed the playback. So rather than getting just anyone, we actually fortunately had one of our composers along with us. He actually took over those duties and did the playback. He had actually been down in the basement recording various vocal tracks for the movie. So he had pretty much gotten all the tracks to me by the point we got to this. So he was like, okay, I got playback. He already knew the cues. So situation resolved itself. But if you're doing that style movie and you're going to have a situation where playback is way far away from where sound card can be, always think about having an extra hand on set that's going to be able to know the cues and be prepared for it. So you don't have to necessarily draft someone at the last minute. We got lucky. I had a former Audio Adrenaline member running my playback, which was kind of weird. Okay, just to kind of sum up for you real quick. Every tool is there to solve a given problem. So be creative. And bottom line, keys to cinema audio. Careful planning. We've talked about it all throughout this session, I think. Careful analysis of every scenario. Know what you need to do. Have a plan. And careful listening, obviously enough. At that point, if you've got all the careful planning, all the good analysis, then you get to be creative and solve some problems. And that is the craft of cinema audio. Any questions, anyone? Yes, sir.
How would you go about upgrading the gear, like the level of performance? How do you start with specifically outside of the mixer or the headphones, but like other parts there? What do you rank on? Like if someone got a mixer at one mic, what do you go from there?
Okay. Question is how you would go about upgrading and how you'd choose priority of what to upgrade first, I think, is kind of the idea. There's no set answer on it, unfortunately. When it comes to core gear, again, it's going to be what your need is. I know you said not necessarily the mixer, but I would say if you're looking at that end of things, personally, I would go toward the mixer first because that's going to give you more flexibility, more options to perform the job. As far as little pieces, it's really what do you think you're going to need on the project you're about to do? And it's literally on a project by project basis that you're going to want to analyze that. And that's what you're going to select is, oh, I need this to make this thing happen. And that's sometimes the best way to gauge it. That way you're not necessarily throwing money to the wind at an imaginary problem necessarily. So that'd be kind of my take. It's just kind of and analyze it that way. Again, analysis skills. Back to that. Next up. Yes, sir. Oh, the cart. The cart? Absolutely. Yes. Question is the sound cart, what it is and why you would need it. Sound cart is basically mission control for sound. Why you need it? When you're operating with a boom op is actually, I would say, when you need it. You need a workspace to be able to write your notes, keep track of things, keep all your gear organized, have cables handy and ready to go, a place for your boom op to set their boom down. So that's why you're going to need that cart. So, yes?
When you have a boom that doesn't have a internal cord, how do you properly manage the cord?
I try to avoid that style, but that said, it's usually like a very loose wrap around the pole, and you've got to watch any kind of cable movement when you're doing that. It's tricky. It's definitely tricky. Or you get a wireless unit. which is the route I've taken at this point a lot of the time. Yeah. Always a loaded question. Question is what a good first mixer would be. There's actually quite a few options out there. I'll give you kind of what I think probably personal preference wise would be for entry levels right now. I would actually lean toward probably the Sound of Bryce's MixPre as a good entry level mixer. Downside being they don't have mirrored recording. However, they're made by a company that makes pro-end units. So it gives you kind of an upgrade path to a degree, and you're getting used to a workflow that at least resembles the pro workflow. So you're not developing bad habits. Also, their gear is pretty rock solid. So that would be where I would start personally. Other brands that kind of fall under that category. Zoom's got some units that have a lot of features. I have my biases in that direction that I'm just not going to go into right now. So, but nice. Yes. Ooh, bare minimum. Question is what the bare minimum would be for good audio. For narrative production, just to kind of throw that out there, you need a good middle of the road wireless, at least a couple units, some kind of standalone recorder. Never, ever, ever record to camera, please. It will bite you. And then at least an entry-level boom of some sort. Probably short shotgun first would be the mic to place on that. So, next up, anyone? Yes.
How do you decide for live streams multiple people if you want to use a boom pole versus just lav mics?
Great question. Question is when to use a boom pole versus just lavs. I meant to say this, so it's actually a great point. The boom I consider always primary, so always try to get it in. Do your best. That said, it's never one or the other. Usually I'm doing both at any given time, if I can. So there are exceptions to that, but if I can get both in, I'm going to want to get both. Boom is always going to be your more natural sound. Again, you feel the space you're in. It's going to pull your audience into that scene just a little bit more. And also, if you consider this, while a lot of technology has gotten a whole lot better in recent years, okay, you've got a mic that's this big versus a mic that's this big. Do you want to shoot your movie with a prime lens or do you want to shoot it with a GoPro? Anything else? Yes. Oh, this particular one or the entry level one? That would be Sound Devices MixPre is the one that I mentioned. She was asking for a repeat on that entry level mixer. So. Yes. Great question. Questions, what mixer I use? I actually work very largely with Zaxcom gear. That applies both to my mixer and my wireless. Reason I like this, it's actually a fully integrated system. I can actually control my lavs from the mixer, meaning I can change frequencies. I can change my gain levels. I can even put my mics in low power mode, save battery, and basically give privacy to my actors. All that's all controlled at the mixer. So for me, I love the workflow and I love the options. So. Okay, one last one. Yes. Probably the entry level Sennheiser would be probably my recommendation for a entry level shotgun. I believe the number on it's MKE 600 is a pretty good place to start. That gets you in Sennheiser family. Those mics are generally pretty bulletproof and sound pretty good. So that would be my preferred starter mic. So.